GetDynasty.com. If you are building a company right now and you think one day you might sell for 10, 50, $100 million and have a lot of cash, your biggest expense are going to be taxes. You got to be thinking about a revocable trust for free today, or more importantly, an irrevocable trust over time. This is what the wealthiest people do to shelter a lot of those gains. You can do it finally with GetDynasty. It comes from the brain of Alessandro Chesser, who thought a lot about this kind of thing as he was talking to customers building Carta from 0 to 400 million bucks of AR. They decided, hey, can't build this at Carta. Let's take it out, build it ourselves. They've raised $5 million, sold 20% of the company to get going, on their way now to scaling and getting their license so they can officially become the corporate trustee in Delaware. Again, getdynasty.com. Go sign up today. Hey, folks, my guest today is Alessandro Chesser. He's the co-founder and CEO of getdynasty.com, a free and easy living trust creator for homeowners. Prior to Dynasty, he was VP of sales at Carta, where he took the company from 0 to over $400 million in ARR. Before Carta, Alessandro spent 9 years in financial services working with high net worth individuals. Alessandro, you ready to take us to the top?
Ready to do it.
All right. Before we get into Dynasty, obviously Carta, we have to talk about Carta quickly. It's one of the most successful B2B software companies in the near term that I can think of, and in a very unique space. Was there anything unique there you tested in terms of scaling the sales operation that maybe might not be a standard playbook? Standard playbook is, get an AE, have them hit $1 million quota, pay them $250K all in, keep a 5-to-1 ratio, give them enough leads with the BDRs, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think we're pretty standard for the most part. We were heavily focused on, creating channels through venture capital firms and law firms. Very, very focused on that. And I think the most important thing was we were trying to create a network effect, right? And so it kind of was inherently built into the product because, for Carta, that's what we did. We signed on companies and we got them to move their cap table onto the system. But every time we signed on a company, we forced them to invite their investors into the platform, which was kind of a unique thing at the time. Cap table management providers weren't actually getting investors to use the product as well. We created this flywheel where the more companies we signed on, the more investors we invited. The more investors we invited, the more they told their other companies to use. It gave them more value. Their portfolios got bigger and bigger in Carta. And so just this flywheel of more companies meant more investors meant more companies. And then we did something similar with the law firms. It was the same thing. We forced companies to invite their law firms. We forced their law firms to be administrators. They didn't want to do that initially. Companies were trying to cut out their law firms and try to save legal expenses. But we knew that we had to get the law firms using the platform if we wanted the law firms to recommend us. And so it was the same type of thing. Like your law firm has to be a user. Like your law firm is going to become more efficient. You're still going to save legal fees. But this is going to give you the most out of our, this is going to give you the most benefit from our platform. It's going to get everybody looped into the same environment. It's going to keep it as a source of truth, and it's going to make you more transparent and efficient going forward.
So unlike document signing or sharing a Loom video where there's an inherent value coefficient built in, it takes 2 people to get value, right? 2 people signing. You guys said, look, we don't have it organically, but we could kind of force it here and say, look, if you're going to bring your cap table over, you got to add your VCs to verify it and your law firm to check the box too. You guys invented that, got it going. And then did you create a unique experience for the VCs? So when they logged in, they saw their portfolio companies. And so you were basically building products for 2 sides.
That's right. We wanted to be, the entire stack in the public markets. You have brokerage accounts, right? And so we wanted to be the brokers for the employees and the investors. We also wanted to be the transfer agent, and we wanted to be the central registrar, which is like the DTCC in the public markets.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into Dynasty. So first off, what year did you launch? What year did you write the first line of code for the platform?
2 years ago, exactly.
All right, so call it 2022 timeframe. And what is a free and easy living trust creator for homeowners?
Yeah, so when we looked at the space initially, we saw that it was broken. Every living trust that you could get up until Dynasty existed was paper. You go to the most expensive law firm in the United States, you get a stack of paper as your output. Or if you go to LegalZoom, Rocket Lawyer, name your online trust creator, you were buying stacks of paper. Like you slide your credit card, pay $500, print out a stack of paper, find a notary, store it in your filing cabinet. Now you have this massive stack of paper. How do you update it? What happens if you lose it? And so we saw the exact same problem that we saw in Carta in the early days. It was paper stock certificates, the paper option agreements. We digitized everything. And so we actually came up with this idea at Carta. We saw this as another set of legal documents that needs to be digitized and democratized. But we realized that we weren't going to be able to build it at Carta, so we left and we got a lot of the same investors to invest in us, and we kicked off the company.
Interesting. How much did you guys end up raising?
Just under $5 million.
Okay, so you call that like a seed round?
Yeah, we did a friends and family, and then we just did a seed a few months ago.
I see. Very cool. How much was the friends and family?
The friends and family was about 2. Seed round was about 2.5.
Oh, got it. So all in, you were about 5 total. Now,
Yeah.
most folks pre-seed seed, especially now with compressed valuations, are selling somewhere on the order of 20% of the company. Were you sort of in that same range?
Exactly. That's
Okay.
right. 20%.
Okay. And what makes this, I mean, that's a lot of dilution, right? So you must have a good reason to give up that equity, right? What makes this so expensive to build? Why do you need $5 million?
Yeah, we don't actually. We have a lot of run. We have like 3+ years of runway. We're keeping expenses super low. I think the most important reason why we wanted to raise the money is because we're becoming a licensed trust company in South Dakota, and that's going to require us to have a minimum of $1 million on reserves. It filed via a bond. In addition to that, you have to get some insurance, and so it's really just for getting through the trust company application process. And it's very specific. We're doing it in South Dakota because South Dakota is the #1 place for trust. There's different kinds of trust. There's revocable trust, which we offer for free. That's kind of our top of funnel lead gen engine. We help, that's what 99% of Americans need. Revocable trust protects you from probate court. Because most Americans don't have a trust, hundreds of billions of dollars every single year get seized by the state governments and placed into probate court. It's the biggest tax on non-generationally rich Americans that exist. And so we want to solve that problem for them. And that's our free product. Our paid product is the irrevocable trust. That's the South Dakota trust product. And so we have to become a licensed trust company in South Dakota so that we can serve as a trustee and actually help people custody assets in South Dakota. That gives you 2 major benefits: taxes and protection. So South Dakota has 0 state income taxes, 0 state dividend taxes, and 0 state cap gains taxes. In addition to that, it's the #1 state for asset protection. So if you put your assets in a South Dakota trust, it's going to protect you from divorce. It's going to protect you from lawsuits. It's going to protect you from creditors. It's this whole quote. It's actually on our website. It's own nothing, control everything. You do that with the South Dakota Trust. You don't own the assets anymore. Your South Dakota Trust owns them. And so that creates that layer of separation, which gives you the protection and the tax benefits.
So I don't want to lose our audience because I want them to listen to you both because you're acumen about building a company, but also because I think a lot of my wealthy entrepreneurial friends, they all set up some form of irrevocable living trust. So I don't want to lose people here, right? Give a very real example. There is a founder right now listening that is doing $2 million in ARR. They think they might sell their company for $10 million, right? All cash sometime over the next couple of years. Why should they be thinking about a trust?
Yeah. So an irrevocable trust specifically.
Let's do that.
So for revocable trust, is just to make sure that your family inherits that $10 million if something happens to you. The irrevocable trust,
Why wouldn't they inherit that without a trust?
It would have to go through the probate court system, which means it's gonna get logged up in court for 18 months on average. It's gonna cost your family tens of thousands of dollars. Even if you have a will, it has to be processed through probate court, which means lawyers, court fees, and family friction, because your family is going to show up to probate court and make a claim for your assets and say that they were named in your will, and it ends up turning into lots of disputes, and it really rips families apart. The only way to avoid probate court is to create a revocable living trust.
Alessandro, why people are thinking, why can't I just set up a will to prevent that? Why do I need a revocable living trust to do that? Why can't a will solve that?
A will goes through probate. It has to be processed through probate court. A will is just instructions for who you want to inherit your assets, but the government will still process that will. And people have to actually show up for court and make a claim for those assets. And so that process takes on average 18 months. If you have a trust is an actual legal entity. You put everything you own in your trust. Your trust now owns your home. It owns your investment accounts. And so if something happens to you, your successor trustee takes control of your trust and can do whatever you want with your assets based on the instructions that you created.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. So again, let's use that same exact thing. The more specific we can be, I think the more people are going to sign up from this recording. So why should a founder doing $2 million of revenue, about to sell for $10 million all cash, why should they today, if they're going to do that in a year, set up an irrevocable trust?
Okay. So taxes and protection. The first category, taxes. So number one, if you live in a state like California or New York, you're subject to enormous state taxes, anywhere from 10 to 13% for income or cap gains or dividends. If you put those assets.
Wait, Alessandro, let's use our real example, right? Well, I'm a founder that owns 100%. I sell for 10 million cash. If I'm in California, you think I'm going to pay about 1.3 million on that at sale?
That's right.
Okay.
$1.3 million of that $10 million will go to the state of California for income taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And so if those shares were held in a South Dakota trust, in South Dakota, there is no state taxes for income or cap gains. So you save $1.3 million right out of the gate just by having your trust in South Dakota. In addition to that, for any founders that are familiar with QSBS, Qualified Small Business Stock Treatment, you get up to $10 million in tax-free gains federally with QSBS. If you exceed $10 million, let's say you have 20 million for a real example, in the example where you don't have an irrevocable trust, you're going to pay income taxes or cap gains taxes of 40% for that second 10 million. $4 million basically will go in a $20 million sale to taxes. If
you federal taxes, right?
Federal taxes, right? Forget state. We already took over state. And so for federal taxes, if you want to save more money on federal taxes, what you do is you create a irrevocable trust and you gift your shares to your children or to your spouse or to your brother. And each of those trusts that you create gets its own $10 million QSBS exemption. So the founders that actually know what they're doing or they have good financial advisors, sometimes they create 4 or 5 irrevocable trusts. They can get like 40 or $50 million worth of tax-free gains.
Hey folks, if we haven't met yet, my name is Nathan Latka. I launched and sold my first software company back in 2015 and went on to write a book about it, which you guys made a Wall Street Journal bestseller, purchasing over 30,000 copies. Thank you so much for that. After the book, I launched this show and went on to create founderpath.com. I raised a large fund to do non-dilutive deals with B2B software founders. So far, we've invested in over 400 software founders, totaling $150 million. Here in 2024, we're doing 3 to 4 new deals per week. So if you're looking for capital and don't want to give up equity, go sign up at founderpath.com for free to get your offer. All right, let's jump into the interview.
Yeah, I hear folks doing this all the time. I guess my question to you would be: there's a lot of people that realize about QSBS and trust too late, meaning they've already paid $100 to buy their 10,000 shares when they started the company. Is it too late for somebody listening that's already been operating for 2 years? Is there some way to get these shares in a Delaware irrevocable trust, or is it too late? They have to wait till their next company.
No, you can definitely do it. Even if the shares are exercised, you can still do it. You can't move options into an irrevocable trust. You have to move exercise shares into an irrevocable trust. So you can do it. You just want to create as much space between when you move it into the trust and your liquidity event as possible. And so I've seen founders do it like 6 months before they sell their stock, but like usually anywhere from 1 to 2 years.
Is that a red flag? Will the government come after you if you stay see?
It can, but if you get audited, it's the same thing as like if I were to move to Nevada and then I sell all my stock, and there's like the more separation you have between how long I live in Nevada and
so what's the safe amount? A year?
I would say anything over 18 months is probably a safe amount.
18 months. And then everyone else, the second thing, the biggest thing I hear from entrepreneurs when we're talking about this kind of thing is they say, Nathan, I don't want to give up control to some random person or my younger brother or my mom or my dad, right? So I guess help people get comfortable with that. What does it mean to actually give up control so you can take advantage of an irrevocable trust?
Yeah, and so there's two ways you can do it. You can turn over the trustee services to a family member, to a friend or family member. They can be the trustee of your trust. Which means they're the ones that are actually going to sign for any investments or any distributions. The other way you can do it is you can assign a corporate trustee, a company. That's what we're becoming licensed to be, a corporate trustee. And so when you assign a corporate trustee, then you work with them directly. They custody your assets, and they actually make the trades for you and the investments for you. It's kind of a similar situation for the public markets when you're an insider and you're involved in insider trading. Like you can't make the direct trades on your shares. And so you have this like 10b5-1 plan, which allows you to place orders to make the trades. It's the same kind of thing. You set up all the instructions for the irrevocable trust, and the corporate trustee is the one who's actually going to make the transactions happen.
So let's say I sign up today for GetDynasty, and 2 years from now I have a liquidity event, I'm going to make the math easy, $10 million, and you are the corporate trustee, right? The GetDynasty is the corporate trustee. I tell you behind the scenes, hey, I want to spend 2 million of this to go buy this house. The trust is going to own it, but I'm going to live in it like sort of full time. One of the things that I've heard from attorneys and counsel is you can't direct the corporate trustee on where to use that money. In other words, I couldn't tell you to go buy the house. So what's the point of having you control? How will you know? Like, what are you going to do? Go buy random stuff with it? How do I give you guidance on what to use that money on?
So when you create your irrevocable trust, you can create very specific instructions, or you can make it very generic. Your specific instructions can say, upon liquidity event, buy houses in these locations, and to find out which houses like you want to purchase, work with this advisor. And so you can appoint like your brother, for example. And so it's a very indirect way of controlling trust. The other way you can do is you can make it super generic, and you can just say, all decisions are going to be made by my advisor that I appoint. Whoever that advisor is has full discretion on anything that happens in the trust. Mm-hmm. And so it's just creating that layer of separation. Like, you're not going to be able to get the tax benefits if you're directly connected to it, right? You're not going to be able to get the asset protection. Like, if you get divorced and they see that you're the one sticking your hands in the cookie jar, like, you're going to be able to lose those cookies. If you want to create that layer of separation, it has to be somebody else that's making the decisions.
Yeah, awesome. Let me give you another example here, because I imagine my audience is wondering this. Let's say that liquidity event happens. You then buy a big, beautiful the corporate trustee then buys a big, beautiful house in Hawaii, right? But I didn't tell you to do it. I told my advisor, and then my advisor told you to do it. Wouldn't anyone? And then let's say I get divorced. Wouldn't my spouse go, "Oh, it wasn't his advice. Look, I have an email of Nathan emailing his advisor, and then the advisor sent it to the corporate trustee. That's why they bought the Hawaii house. Therefore, I should get the Hawaii house."
I mean, it doesn't matter if you're married in California. Well, first of all, if the house is in Hawaii, it's not going to be able to be held in a South Dakota trust.
Let's say California.
Yeah, if it was stock, let's say it was stock. Stock can be held anywhere in the proceeds of stock. But if you buy real estate with it, wherever the real estate sits, that's where it's going to be governed.
Oh,
if it sits in California, it's because it physically exists, right? But stock, investment accounts, crypto, that's all digital. That can be held anywhere. And so if you have a bunch of investments in South Dakota and you get divorced, it doesn't matter what your spouse says in California.
That's not relevant for my audience, though. That's not relevant for my audience, because they're not going to be in South Dakota. Let me ask the second question, which some of my wealthy friends, I've heard them use their trust for in this thing. What they do is they take a loan against the value in the trust, and then they can use that loan however they want personally, and the interest is tax-free. So for example, if I had a liquidity event and you had 10 million sitting in that trust, I could show that to some bank, and they might give me 40% leverage on the 10 million and give me a $4 million loan at a 4% rate personally. I can then control where I spend that money, and it is backed up by the trust. Is this something you see entrepreneurs do a lot? And am I thinking about this the right way?
100% always. And the other way that they do it is they don't take a loan from the trust, but if the trust buys real estate, they can rent to live in that real estate. So they're not directly connected. So for example, like let's say I have my daughter. I'll create an irrevocable trust for my daughter. I'll use the proceeds of the sale to buy a house. I'll live in the house. I'll pay rent. That rent goes back to my daughter and the trust that I created for her. And so it's a way of, you get around the taxes and the money just goes back to my daughter for the rent.
Yep. Guys, audience, you're probably wondering, why am I not hitting Alessandro harder on the numbers like I usually do on all my shows? It's because his actual thing that he's building, I think, is very valuable for entrepreneurs. And a lot of people do not understand it. But frankly, the biggest bill you're going to pay your entire life is taxes. So understanding this move, right, is important. And Alessandro, I guess this is part of the thesis, is the fact that nobody really understands this is why you're building GetDynasty. So how does GetDynasty make money on all this stuff?
Yeah. So, we have two products. We have the revocable trust product and the irrevocable trust product. As I mentioned, revocable is for inheritance planning. Irrevocable trust, that's for taxes and asset protection. Your point about South Dakota trust, you don't have to live in South Dakota to have a South Dakota trust. I have a South Dakota trust. I can move my digital assets there. So all my founder shares, my previous shares at Carta, my crypto, everything's in South Dakota trust. That gives me South Dakota tax treatment. And so the way that we make money is we have this flywheel where we have thousands of people every single month signing up for our free revocable trust product that they put their home in it. That helps them avoid probate court.
Wait, can we be specific there? How many signed up last month in May of 2024?
Just under 2,000. We're doing under 2,000 a month right now.
And can you my audience is going to love you building that wait list. Where are you getting that traffic from? I mean, how are you pumping that up so much?
Close to 80% of our customers right now are just coming from word of mouth and organic short form videos. And we're doing a lot of partnerships as well. And so,
Can you name
I
an
think,
example of a partner that's driven you leads?
one of the largest mortgage lenders in the U.S., guaranteed rate. And so we're partnering with mortgage lenders because we're circling in on homeowners, because homeowners are the widest base of mass market customers that have a single problem to solve, right? They have to put their home in their trust. That's the only way they can avoid probate court. And so putting a home in a trust is actually complex. Like, you can go to LegalZoom and you can create a trust online, but actually putting your home in it, you're going to need to see an attorney because they're going to have to draft a new deed for you. So the way that we're approaching the homeowner problem, helping homeowners put their home in a trust, is we're circling the home buying process with mortgage companies, with title companies, with prop tech companies. So the next time you buy a home and you go to guaranteed rate and you get a mortgage, guaranteed rate is going to say, do you want to put this home in a trust for free? And it gets embedded directly into the buying process. And they tell you exactly why you want to do it. Your home goes straight into the trust. There doesn't have to be any deed transfer.
Alessandro, where are these videos? So I'm trying to reverse engineer your growth. I went into Ahrefs. I look at your site structure. You're testing programmatic SEO right now, how to make a living trust in state, which is great. It's early days there, but you're getting referring domains. You mentioned video though. Where are most of those videos hosted? I go on your YouTube. There's 341 subscribers. I do see a lot of young kids with wealthy backgrounds saying the secrets of the rich and famous sort of thing. Is that part of your go-to-market strategy to sort of target millennials?
That's right. And YouTube is small. We're much bigger in Instagram and TikTok. So Instagram specifically, if you look at our Instagram account, it's just GetDynasty. You're going to find a ton of short form videos in there.
16,900 followers, a lot of short form stuff. But you're working, okay, you're clearly though working through a lot of in other words, it's not you on video. It's like this young looking guy who looks like he's my age saying, I'm inheriting 10 million, I'm retiring from IB at 25. What do I do next? These are the kinds of things doing well, huh?
That's right. That's right.
How are you finding these influencers, or sort of micro influencers, we'll call them?
This market, we actually outsourced to a creator who does the scripts for us, and then they engage with a marketplace that allows us to get the actual actors. It's super cheap. Like, we can get it done for less than $5,000 a month and get like 20, 25 videos a month.
Very cool. Okay. We get it. For 2,000 free signups at the top of the funnel each month, coming mainly from Instagram and TikTok, short form videos. Take us down the funnel. What happens next? How do you get to paid?
So they come in, they get in for the free trust, and then they want some advanced options, or they have some questions. They get on the phone with one of our customer support reps, and then we upsell them into. We have two paid products. We have the more advanced feature revocable trust product for $99 a year. So we're not necessarily, we say we're pre-revenue, but we actually have about $50,000 ARR, and that's coming from the $99 a year product. The irrevocable trust product, that's in the very earliest stages right now. While we get licensed, we can help people create these irrevocable trusts, but we're not really putting a lot of emphasis on that until we become licensed, because the trustee services, that's where the big revenue opportunity is. It's going to be.
Who are you recommending right now for the corporate trustee, since you're not licensed? If I sign up today for irrevocable,
Bridgeford Trust Company, and they charge $8,000 a year, and we've given them $100,000+ of revenue. And
I see. So you'll cut them out once you're licensed. When will that be done, you think?
That's right. We're getting licensed in the next 9 months. We're working on the application process right now. We're working with the South Dakota legislators. We're building our board in South Dakota, and we'll be licensed in about 9 months.
Really interesting. Really interesting. Okay, so got it. So that's why you see sort of path to revenue is effectively where your revenue is going to come from. You're just giving it to somebody else right now. Once you get the license, you're good to go. Why is it better? Why is it? You just raised a bunch of money. You don't, 9 months in startup land is a long time. To save yourself time, why don't you go buy Bridgeford Trust Company?
Well, first of all, Bridgeford would be very expensive. They've been around forever. I think
a smaller one that has the license.
Yeah, we actually explored this with our legal counsel. It will take longer to go through the acquisition process. So they're going to have to do the same amount of work to verify us, all our background checks. It's like becoming a bank, basically. It goes through the banking division. And we have to do all the AML and the KYC. We have to have everything. We have to do all the same stuff. So there was no benefit to buying. We just decided to go through the application process directly.
Yeah. Even if you're perfect history, though, you can't get a banking charter right now. Is it similar with what you're trying to do? Do they purposely limit these? Or how many new of these were given out last year, for example? Can anyone do it?
Not anyone could do it. I think they do like 10 a year, maybe max.
So how are you going to get in?
We have connections with the state of South Dakota specifically. We have like a former congressman that's going to be joining our South Dakota board. we're working our way through South Dakota. We have connections into the governor, right? And so you have to, and also like we have very powerful investors, right? Bill Ackman's one of our investors. We have the founder of Insight Partners, one of our investors. We have the founder of Carta. We got a bunch of billionaires as investors. And so that was the main purpose for raising capital. Also, in addition to, satisfying the needs for the South Dakota Trust Company, we needed the connections that will help us get through the red tape over there.
Yep, that makes a ton of sense. This is great. Okay, we talked about sort of your growth. We talked about your funding. We talked about how much you sold. We talked about why trusts are important. What else am I missing? Remember, my audience are mainly founders doing between $1 to $5 million of revenue. How should they be thinking about trust? Anything we missed?
Yeah, so like taxes and asset protection is great. But like, you don't need to rush and do that today, especially if you're not going to be selling stock for another 5 to 10 years. I would say the most important thing is for anybody who does not currently have a trust, any type of trust at all, use our free product. You can do it in less than 5 minutes in the backseat of an Uber. You can do it while you're multitasking. We literally have customers that do this while they're in the gym working out. And we know because they go through the selfie verification at the very end of our workflow. And so that's the way we designed this product to be so simple that anybody can do it while they're multitasking. Like do it quick. GetDynasty.com takes you less than 5 minutes. If you want to see an attorney later, or if you want to get our upgraded package later, great. You can always expand on the free one, but at least having the free one is going to give you some layer of protection. Today you have zero. Some protection is going to be much better than zero.
And who is the closest to you in terms of in this space right now? I'm seeing like Verify, Velvet, Portfolio.io, but I mean, who would you say is your top competitor in the space?
I think we're kind of playing this middle ground between LegalZoom and attorneys. And, the difference is our revocable trust is free. Like nobody else is doing that. It's going to cost you money everywhere. We're switching the business model completely. We're using the revocable product as our acquisition. That's the mass market product. Every single American in the United States needs a revocable trust. And then, the premium product, that's how we're going to monetize. So there's not really anybody that's doing it from that sense. But the main reason, somebody would not use us is maybe because they want to see an attorney. They want to go through that process. Most people don't, but some people do. And, for that, they can definitely go see the attorneys.
It's funny. I put GetDynasty alternatives in search and I saw LegalZoom running ads, but I was thinking, oh, wow, they're already on LegalZoom's radar. But no, LegalZoom offers what's called a dynasty trust. Right. And so it's marketing for that. Was that intentional in terms of your name or no?
No, the South Dakota Trust is a dynasty trust. A dynasty trust, the other benefit is that it doesn't die. When you have a regular revocable trust and you die, your trust has to be settled. It has to be paid out, which means estate taxes. Death tax is about 40%. If you have a dynasty trust, the dynasty trust lives forever. It gets passed from generation to generation to generation. These are what the richest people have, and that's why they never paid death taxes.
Yep. Very cool. All right, let's wrap up here, Alessandro, with the famous five. Number one, your favorite business book.
Favorite business book is probably How to Win Friends and Influence Others. I think for sales in general, that's the best book you can ever read. It teaches you how to be a good person. It teaches you how to listen to people and not be salesy.
Number two, who's the last founder you got coffee with?
Last founder I got coffee with would be my good friend. He's a founder of a venture firm. His name is Samit Gajri. He's one of our largest investors from Original Capital.
Original Capital. Okay. Number three, what's a tool that you spend what's an online tool that you spend the most money on?
Right now, we don't spend a lot of money on anything. Maybe HubSpot, probably the CRM video. We're lean. So
yeah. What are your all-in expenses right now? The whole company, headcount, servers, everything.
Less than $40,000 a month.
That's pretty good. Okay, good. So you have plenty of runway. Okay. Number four, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
I have 2 little kids, so I would say I'm averaging 5 to 6 hours a night, unfortunately, but hopefully we'll get over the hump soon.
So married, 2 kids, and how old are you?
38.
Last question. Something you wish you knew when you were 20.
Something I wish I knew when I was 20. Don't sweat the small stuff. All this stuff, like building businesses. Once I had kids, I completely realized that that's the most important thing in the world. None of the rest of the stuff matters. Everything else can be fixed. But if you have health issues or something going wrong with your kids, that's a lot harder to fix.
Guys, GetDynasty.com. If you are building a company right now and you think one day you might sell for 10, 50, $100 million and have a lot of cash, your biggest expense are going to be taxes. You got to be thinking about a revocable trust for free today, or more importantly, an irrevocable trust over time. This is what the wealthiest people do to shelter a lot of those gains. You can do it finally with GetDynasty. It comes from the brain of Alessandro Chesser, who thought a lot about this kind of thing as he was talking to customers building Carta from 0 to 400 million bucks of AR. They decided, hey, can't build this at Carta. Let's take it out, build it ourselves. They've raised $5 million, sold 20% of the company to get going, on their way now to scaling and getting their license so they can officially become the corporate trustee in Delaware. Again, GetDynasty.com. Go sign up today. Alessandro, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thank you.